The sun was just beginning to dip behind the rugged cliffs of the desert canyon, casting long shadows over the rocky landscape. Dust swirled in the dry air as Jack McCall, a lone cowboy known for his quiet demeanor and steady hand, guided his horse down the narrow trail. The canyon was a treacherous place, filled with jagged rocks and hidden dangers, but Jack was used to such terrain. He'd spent most of his life in these parts, working cattle and running messages for the settlers along the frontier. His sharp eyes caught a flicker of movement. Near a boulder, several yards ahead, he reined in his horse, silent and alert, his hand instinctively moving to the revolver at his side. The wind whispered softly through the sparse brush, carrying with it a faint sound, a soft groan. Curiosity won over caution, and Jack cautiously approached the source of the sound. There, crumpled against the cool stone, was a young woman. Her dark hair was tangled and dusted with dirt, and a streak of blood ran from a wound on her forehead. Her clothes were torn and stained, but what struck Jack most was the fierce, proud set of her jaw, even in pain. "Miss," Jack said gently, his voice rough but kind. "Are you hurt bad?" The woman's eyes fluttered open, dark and wary. She glanced around as if weighing her chances, then nodded weakly. I need help." Jack dismounted, moving slowly so as not to frighten her. "You're safe now. I'm Jack McCall. What's your name?" She hesitated. Nailey. The name sounded foreign, different from the English or Spanish names Jack was used to hearing. Still, he didn't press her for details. Instead, he scanned the area for signs of what might have happened. "Can you walk?" he asked. Nailey tried to rise, but a sharp pain in her leg made her wince and sit back down. "You're hurt bad," Jack said, removing his coat and gently wrapping it around her shoulders. "We need to get you somewhere safe." As he lifted her carefully onto his horse, Nailey's eyes met his again, filled with a mixture of fear and something else, something like hope. Doc rode cautiously back toward his homestead, the weight of the mystery pressing on his mind. Who was this girl, and why was she hiding in such a dangerous place? The sun had nearly vanished behind the jagged horizon by the time Jack reached his small homestead, nestled at the canyon's edge. The place was humble, a simple wooden cabin, surrounded by dry brush and a corral, holding a few horses and cattle. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, and the faint sound of a dog barking greeted Jack as he dismounted with Nailey cradled carefully in his arms. His dog, a sturdy black and tan shepherd named Scout, approached cautiously but wagged his tail once Jack reassured him. Jack carried Nailey inside, setting her gently onto a rough-hewn cot near the fireplace. He grabbed a clean cloth and wet it in a basin of water, then carefully dabbed at the blood drying on her forehead. "Better than leaving you out there," Jack muttered. "You're lucky I found you." Nailey's dark eyes scanned the cabin. The warmth and smell of wood smoke seemed to soothe her, though her discomfort was evident in the way she shifted on the cot. Jack busied himself gathering herbs and a bandage. From his small supply, he was no doctor, but he had enough knowledge of first aid to treat wounds and infections. "Do you want water?" he asked, offering a cup. Nailey nodded, her voice still weak. "Thank you." As she drank, Jack noticed her gaze lingering on an old map hanging on the wall. It showed the surrounding lands, the canyon, nearby settlements, and the winding river beyond. Jack had marked trails and hidden watering holes he'd discovered over years. "Where were you coming from?" he asked gently, not wanting to frighten her further but needing answers. Nailey hesitated, biting her lip. "I can't say. It's not safe." Jack's eyes narrowed, sensing there was more beneath her silence. "If someone's chasing you, I can help, but you've got to trust me." A flicker of emotion crossed Nailey's face, fear, pain, and something fiercer still. After a long pause, she spoke quietly. "I am Nailey, daughter of Chief Totsi, of the Apache. I was hidden here to protect me." Jack frowned, surprised. He'd heard stories of the Apache, fierce warriors of the land who resisted the settlers. He'd never imagined meeting one of their own, especially not in such a fragile state. "Why are you hiding? What happened to your people?" Nailey's eyes darkened with sorrow. "There is war. The settlers and soldiers threaten my people. My father feared for my life. I was sent away to stay hidden until it is safe again." Jack sat back, absorbing her words. The canyon's roughness suddenly took on new meaning. This was not just a place of rugged beauty but a sanctuary for a hunted girl. "We'll keep you safe here," Jack promised, his voice steady. "But if there's a chance to end this fighting, we need to find it." For the first time, Nailey allowed a small smile, a flicker of hope in her tired eyes. The night stretched on with stories shared in whispers. Jack speaking of the land and his solitary life, Nailey recounting glimpses of her family and her people's struggles. Outside, The wind moaned softly through the canyon, carrying secrets on its breath. But as the fire burned low, Jack knew this was only the beginning. Danger was never far from these lands, and protecting Nayeli would mean facing the harsh realities of a world where trust was fragile and enemies many. The dawn broke with a pale, hesitant light filtering through the cracks in the cabin walls. Jack was already up, tending to the small fire in the hearth. Nayeli lay still on the cot, her breathing steady but shallow. The wound on her forehead had stopped bleeding, but her leg remained swollen and bruised. Jack's mind raced with questions and plans. How long could he keep Nayeli hidden here? Could he trust anyone else to help? And what dangers lurked beyond the canyon? Hunting the daughter of Chief Tatsi. As the morning sun rose, the canyon came alive with the sounds of birds and the distant clatter of hooves. Jack stepped outside to check his horses and survey the land. The canyon walls loomed tall and silent, like watchful guardians. Suddenly, a rustling sound caught his attention from a thicket near the edge of the corral. His hand went to his revolver as he scanned the bushes. Out stepped a figure, a young man, gaunt and dusty, eyes sharp and cautious. "Hold your fire," the stranger called, raising his hands. "I'm not looking for trouble." Jack relaxed slightly but kept his weapon ready. "Who are you? What do you want?" "My name's Caleb. I'm a scout for the nearby fort. I've been tracking a small band of Apache warriors rumored to be moving through this area." Jack's heart quickened. Could Caleb be a threat tonight? He needed to know more. "Have you seen anyone else?" Jack asked, keeping his voice steady. Caleb nodded. "Yes, a girl injured was seen near the South Ridge 2 days ago. Looks like she's trying to hide." Jack exchanged a quick glance toward the cabin. He felt a cold knot tighten in his chest. He couldn't risk Nayeli being discovered. "Not now, Caleb," Jack said carefully. "There's no need for the fort to come here. I'm taking care of her." Caleb's eyes flicked with suspicion. "Is she important?" Jack hesitated but decided honesty was best. "She's the daughter of an Apache chief. If the fort finds her, it could mean war." Caleb's expression hardened. "That's why I'm here to keep the peace, if I can. But there are others who won't be so understanding." Jack studied Caleb's face, a mixture of resolve and weariness. He could see the weight of his duty pressing on the young scout. "Can I trust you to keep her safe?" Jack asked. Caleb looked away, then back. "I want peace, not more bloodshed. I'll help, but we'll need to move her soon." Back inside, Jack told Nayeli about Caleb's arrival. Her dark eyes flickered with alarm, but she nodded slowly. "If we stay, we are sitting ducks." Plans were made swiftly. Jack packed supplies while Caleb prepared his horse. The three of them, Jack, Nayeli, and Caleb, set out just before noon, moving quietly through the maze of rocky trails and narrow passes. The canyon seemed to close in around them, shadows deepening as they climbed higher. Nayeli leaned heavily on Jack, her strength fading but her spirit unbroken, as they neared a hidden cave known only to the Apache. Jack glanced back, feeling the weight of unseen eyes watching from the ridges. Danger was closing in. That night, under a blanket of stars, Nayeli spoke softly. "My father taught me the land. These canyons are alive, they protect those who respect them." Jack listened, feeling a connection to the land deeper than he had ever known. Protecting Nayeli meant more than shelter. It meant standing between two worlds on the brink of war. The hidden cave was more than just a refuge, it was a sacred place whispered about in Apache stories. A natural fortress carved into the canyon's highest cliffs. Jack had never been here before, but as he helped Nayeli inside, he could feel the weight of history pressing through the rock walls. Nayeli settled on a bed of soft pine needles the Apache had laid down. Her breathing was labored but steady. Caleb stood guard near the cave's narrow entrance, eyes scanning the darkened landscape beyond. "Thank you," Nayeli said quietly to Jack, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack nodded, his jaw tight. "We're not out of danger yet." The three shared a meal of jerky and bread by the flickering light of a small fire. Outside, the wind howled through the canyon, carrying with it the scent of sage and dust. Over the next few days, Jack and Caleb took turns watching over Nayeli and scouting the surrounding trails. The threat of soldiers and hostile warriors felt ever present, like a shadow stalking their every step. Jack found himself drawn to Nayeli not just by her bravery, but by her fierce connection to the land and her people's ancient traditions. She spoke of the mountains and rivers as if they were old friends, and Jack listened, fascinated. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Nayeli shared a story from her childhood. "My father, Chief Tatsi, taught me that the land is alive with spirits. When danger comes, the canyon will speak if you know how to listen." Jack smiled wryly. "I've been living in these parts for years. Never heard the canyon speak before." Nayeli's eyes gleamed in the firelight. You just have to be still enough to hear. That night, Jack found himself staring at the dark walls of the cave, wondering if the spirits she spoke of were real, or maybe, they were just the echoes of the past. Warning of the coming storm. Suddenly, a noise shattered the quiet, a low rumble, like distant thunder. Jack grabbed his rifle and signaled for Caleb to be alert. The sound grew louder, and soon the ground beneath them trembled. Rocks began to fall from the cave's entrance. We've been found, Caleb whispered. Jack moved quickly to block the cave's mouth with heavy stones, trying to buy them time. Nahili's face was pale but resolute. This is the test of the canyon. The attackers were close soldiers or enemies. Jack couldn't be sure. The cliff above them was unstable, and Jack prayed the natural barrier would hold. As the night deepened, the tension stretched tight. Every shadow could hide a foe, every whisper of wind a threat. But inside the cave, something else stirred, a quiet strength, a bond between three unlikely allies forged in fire and fear. Jack knew one thing. Protecting Nayeli was no longer just about survival. It was about hope for peace, for understanding, for a future where the canyon's secrets might finally be safe. The first light of dawn crept into the cave, painting the rough walls with a soft golden hue. Jack, Caleb, and Nayeli had spent a restless night listening to the sounds outside: footsteps, whispered voices, and the occasional clang of metal against stone. The makeshift barrier held, but only just. Jack rubbed the dirt and sweat from his face, trying to keep his nerves steady. Nayeli, despite her injuries, was alert, her dark eyes burning with a fierce determination. We can't stay here forever, she said, her voice calm but urgent. If they find us, they will not hesitate to kill. Caleb nodded grimly. I know a safe place, a hidden valley where some Apache have found refuge, but getting there will be dangerous. We'll need to move before nightfall. Jack's thoughts were conflicted. Trust Caleb, the soldier who had tracked her down, who represented the forces hunting her people. But Caleb's eyes held a sincerity that made Jack pause. We leave at first light, Jack decided. We move fast and stay quiet. The hours passed in tense preparation. Jack packed what supplies he could spare, while Nayeli rested, conserving her strength. Caleb checked their weapons, scanning the rocky landscape for any signs of pursuit as they set out. The canyon greeted them with its unforgiving beauty, sunlight dappling the stone, shadows stretching like silent sentinels. They moved carefully along narrow ledges and hidden trails, the weight of their secret a heavy burden, but danger was closer than they realized. Unbeknownst to them, a figure watched from a distant ridge, a scout working for the local militia. His eyes gleamed as he recognized Nayeli and understood the treasure in his sight. Back at the cabin, a trap was being set. The days that followed were a blur of near escapes and whispered plans. Nayeli shared stories of her people's past, of peace broken by greed and fear, of warriors who had fought to protect the land, and of a destiny she was meant to fulfill. Jack listened, his respect growing not just for Nayeli's courage but for the history and pain etched into her every word. One night, under a canopy of stars, Nayeli confided in Jack. My father always said the strongest chains are those forged by betrayal, she said softly. Not all enemies wear the same face. Jack looked at her, the weight of her words sinking deep. Suddenly, from the shadows behind them, came the sharp crack of a rifle shot. Caleb cried out, clutching his shoulder, and the ambush was upon them. Jack drew his revolver, firing into the darkness. Nayeli scrambled to hide, but the attackers pressed forward, men with guns and cold eyes, intent on capturing the Apache chief's daughter. In the chaos, trust was tested, allies revealed themselves, and enemies struck from within. Jack realized that the fight for survival was not just against those outside, but also the betrayals that lurked close. As the dust settled, the three found themselves battered but alive, more determined than ever to see Nayeli safe. But the canyon's silence was deceptive. The true storm was yet to come. The sun scorched the canyon walls as Jack, Nayeli, and Caleb pushed deeper into the rugged wilderness. Caleb's wounded shoulder was bleeding, but adrenaline carried him forward. Each step felt heavier, weighted with exhaustion, fear, and determination. Behind them, the shouts of their pursuers echoed off the rocks like thunder. The militia was relentless, closing in with every passing hour. Jack's eyes darted across the terrain, searching for a way to shake their hunters or set a trap. Nayeli, despite her injury, moved with surprising agility, guided by instincts honed from years of survival. There's a river ahead, she said, voice steady but tired. We can lose them in the gorge below. Jack nodded. Good thinking. If we can reach the water, maybe we can cross and disappear. Caleb winced but pressed on, leaning heavily on Jack when necessary. The canyon narrowed as they approached the gorgeous steep cliffs rising on either side and a rushing river cutting through the rocky floor. As they descended, Jack's mind raced. The militia would expect them to take the easiest path, the main trail, but he spotted a narrow ledge hidden behind a cluster of boulders. "We can take this," Jack whispered. "It's risky, but it might buy us time." Carefully, they scrambled onto the ledge, its surface slick with loose stones. One wrong step could send them tumbling into the river far below. The sounds of pursuit grew louder. Jack's heart pounded as the first militiamen appeared at the trailhead. "Hold on," Jack whispered. "We'll make a stand here if we have to." But Nayeli had other plans. Drawing on the teachings of her people, she whispered an ancient prayer to the spirits of the canyon, calling on the land to protect them. Suddenly, a section of loose rock above the pursuers gave way, sending a cascade of stones crashing down. The militia scrambled, caught off guard and disorganized. Seizing the moment, Jack, Nayeli, and Caleb dashed along the ledge, moving as fast as their battered bodies allowed. They reached the riverbank, where Jack plunged into the cold water, pulling Nayeli and Caleb after him. The current was fierce, but it carried them downstream, muffling their cries and masking their scent. For hours they floated and swam, emerging on the far side, battered but alive. Exhausted, they collapsed beneath a grove of cottonwoods. Nayeli's eyes shone with fierce gratitude. "We made it," she whispered. Jack looked at her, Caleb, and the wild canyon beyond. The fight wasn't over, but hope had found a place to breathe. "We'll find a way to end this," Jack promised. "For your people, and for peace." Nayeli smiled, a fragile light in the darkness. The canyon had tested them all, but it had also brought them together, and in that bond lay the power to change everything. The first light of morning painted the canyon in soft gold and rose hues. Jack, Nayeli, and Caleb lay beneath the sheltering cottonwoods, their bodies aching but spirits unbroken. The river's gentle murmur was a soothing contrast to the violence and chaos that had chased them. Nayeli sat up, brushing dirt and leaves from her dark hair. Her eyes searched the horizon, filled with a mixture of hope and resolve. "We can't run forever," she said softly. "My people need me. The war between our worlds must end." Jack nodded, understanding the weight she carried. "You have courage beyond words. But how do we stop a war that's been burning for years?" Caleb winced as he sat, tending his injured shoulder. "Maybe it starts with trust. Not easy to come by, but it's the only way." Over the next few days, the trio moved cautiously toward a small Apache settlement hidden deep within the mountains, an enclave, where peace talks were whispered but never dared. As they approached the village, Nayeli was greeted with a mixture of relief and suspicion. Her return was a spark of hope for her people and a reminder of the dangers that still lurked. The Apache elders listened intently as Nayeli spoke of Jack and Caleb, their courage, their willingness to protect her against odds. Slowly, walls began to crumble. Jack found himself welcomed not as an outsider, but as an ally. Caleb, too, earned respect through his honesty and injuries borne in the fight. Together, they worked to forge a fragile peace, building bridges between settlers and Apache warriors. The path was fraught with challenges, old grudges, political forces, and deep wounds, but with each step forward, a new dawn seemed possible. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Nayeli stood beside Jack on a ridge overlooking the land they both loved. "Thank you," she whispered, her hand finding his, "for seeing me not just as a girl in hiding, but as a daughter of the land." Jack smiled, his heart full. "We all belong here, Nayeli, together." The canyon, once a place of danger and secrets, had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the harshest places, courage and compassion could create a new story. And as the stars began to shine overhead, a quiet promise echoed through the canyon winds, that the future could be different, if only they dared to make it so.